It's Airborne right here on your classic metal show with Blonde, Bad, and Beautiful, which describes my co-host tonight. I want to welcome to the mic for the first time as a co-host of the classic metal show, my good friend Kendle. What's going on, Kendle?
It's going great. It's great to be here and seeing the CMS studio. Yep.
Well, here you are, Kendle, as somebody who has been a part of the CMS fan base, as well as someone in the CMS camp. I like to consider you as being part of our little group here. I thought maybe it would be a time for you to step up and jump into the co-host chair and show everybody what you're made of.
Well, you've given me so much praise over these almost 4 years. I kind of want to say, like, damn, it's about time.
Well, Kendle, most people are familiar with you as part of the chat room, and of course, you have your own show on Uncontrolled Noise every Wednesday night, where you do a free-form all request show, and obviously, you've did college radio, and you had your own show on there, a Metal Massacre Mondays, and all that kind of good stuff. And do you still have the same passion for radio as you did, when you first started in there a few years ago?
I'd say I have even more passion, more than I could have ever thought I would, because I guess when I started in college, it was more for something for me to do, because I love music and to get more involved. But now, as a CMS is, it's kind of more of like a lifestyle and an attitude, and I'm glad to continue that on Uncontrolled Noise. So it's great to be a part of it, part of the CMS family, part of the Uncontrolled Noise family, and all that.
Wow, look at you. Wow. Well, at what point did you decide, I need to get behind the mic? I know you told us the story that your mom kind of encouraged you to, step up a little bit and come out of your shell, as it were, and get behind the mic. And obviously it was a good choice for you. So outside of that, did you have a desire or a thought that sometime I'd like to maybe try my hand at being a some kind of an entertainer or some kind of a disc jockey of some kind?
Well, when I was going to start, the only aspiration I had was to get all the bands that I love to be playing on the air. And then along with that came all the skills that I learned through DJing, through audio work, and becoming a better communicator, because it did help me, because I was nervous. I'm still a nervous person, by all means, but it has helped me tremendously. A lot of people who knew me before I started radio, maybe like childhood friends, parents, couldn't believe that I am on the radio. Even people who know me now, because I'm a reserved person, like when I'm bartending, because I'm a bartender, they probably would never think that I am on the radio. So that all came, but just the primary goal was just to share my love for the music.
Perfect. Well, you do a good job of it every Wednesday, and I'm glad to have you on board tonight to kind of fill out these 3 hours and take over for where Chris left off. And I know you get a lot of support from all your friends and fans in the CMS chat room, the people who show up for your show on Wednesdays, as well as everybody who interacts with you on Saturdays when you're in there. And it's pretty cool that you've gained yourself your own following.
Yes, and I have the CMS to thank for that. You started this whole thing where usually when people ask me, how the hell you get an internet radio show, I go, it's by listening to others, and I always claim that to be the classic metal show, and it just gave me a great group of friends who I very much appreciate sticking around in the chat room for my show and talking, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, perfect. All right, Kendle, well, let's jump into some things here. I got a whole list of topics here that our fans have been very good about sending in, and they always want us to cover this stuff for whatever reason. I don't. And I've said this before on the show that people can look up their own news and they can read events and things that happen. But for some reason, they like it better when we read it or analyze it or discuss it, I guess.
Yeah. It's not a story until we know it's what you and Chris think it's all about. Means nothing. Means nothing.
All right. Here's one. Now, I know that you're not like a social media wonk, but you do get involved and you do promote some things on social media, and you do retwitter a few things, and you're probably one of your main communication devices where your show for Wednesday is concerned is through your Facebook page. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, mostly because I had the base of the friends I already had, friends and family, so it was easy to get people to follow on Facebook. Looking into Twitter wasn't really an option. I don't think I'm getting anywhere on Twitter, and I don't really want to get anywhere on Twitter, so it's all right.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, people make their whole existence on social media. Their whole, we've had stories over the last few months where, the one girl, she got her Instagram page pulled down for whatever reason, maybe terms of service violations or something, and she was crying the blues, and she wants to be an Instagram influencer, and she just wants to be a social media person. And people think that just by being on social media that somehow they're going to be internet famous or get rich or something. And one of the things that's kind of popped up here over the last couple of years is something that people call the influencers.
Yeah, I'm aware of them. They're somehow making a great living.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Well, in this situation, a wedding photographer was called abusive and unprofessional after refusing to offer services to an influencer for free.
She has the right to deny that as a business owner, but considering the amount of influence that these influencers have, it depends who it was. That might not have been such a bad idea.
Yeah.
For her, yeah.
Well, we'll let you and the fans decide. A PR person claiming to work for an influencer with 55,000 social media followers. That doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, we went through a whole list of metal podcasts out there, and there's several of them out there that have millions of followers. This influencer has 55,000 followers.
Yeah, not good in my book.
I mean, if you're not even at 100,000, I can't even imagine you being considered an influencer.
Nope, not at all.
All right. So this influencer with 55,000 social media followers got in touch with a small wedding photography company asking for a freebie. They expected their client to receive a package worth of at least $5,000 in exchange for a few posts on Instagram.
Yeah. Small wedding photographer. I know a couple people trying to get into business. That's definitely not a good deal. I don't even think people want to pay more professional-based photographers for the work that they put in. I don't think they take it as much as a cherished art that it is. So that's a bad deal. It's a good thing she did not take the deal.
Well, who?
The photographer.
Yeah, the photographer. Well,
yeah.
Anyway, Betrothed and Company is run by Frankie Lowe and Laura Dunning, who weren't impressed with the offer. They emailed back saying that they don't tend to make such arrangements, especially with an influencer with such a small following. The PR person named Melissa responded by calling them unprofessional and abusive, and saying working with the influencer would have been a great opportunity to network with some celebrities who will be making TV appearances later in the year. It's no secret that plenty of the brands and companies choose to work with social media influencers in an attempt to use their large following and idealistic image to boost their own profiles. But while some businesses may choose to offer their services in exchange for social media recognition on their own terms, when an influencer reaches out expecting for a freebie, it often does not go well.
No. And I can't imagine the the market is that good for whoever that this Instagrammer is influencing. It's just hopefully a bunch of young adolescents who may never get married.
Exactly. Betrothed and Company, a small UK-based wedding photography business run by Frankie Lowe and Laura Dunning, had a strange experience with a self-titled influencer expecting to receive a package worth $5,000 for free. They were contacted by the unnamed influencer's PR person, Melissa, who said that their client was planning to get married in April of 2021. So, I mean, wow, 2 years from now.
Yeah, they always seem to be out there, though, those engagement dates. I guess it gives them enough time to get out. I mean, from what I hear, they usually follow through, but you'd think that'd be enough time to figure things out, considering the divorce rate anyway. But I guess things just change after that date 3 years in the future.
Rather than make a payment, she said the influencer client could advertise the company and a 25% discount on their services to her 55,000 social media followers. Just so you are aware, we have approached 4 other similar businesses in your area, so a fast response will be beneficial to your business, the email tactfully ended. Lowe and Dunning weren't impressed by the offer and shared the email exchange to their Facebook page. We don't share client emails unless they look like this, they said. We are a really tiny business in a really competitive industry, and the emails like this really disregard how hard we work. They initially responded gracefully by saying they don't usually make such arrangements or agreements. They also asked if there might have been a typo in the original email, as 55,000 isn't the level of following which can command free transfer of products worth between $5,000 and $8,000.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yep, I agree.
55.
And if this influencer thought they were so worth that deal, I think they would be searching for a little bit, a photographer, a little bit famous standards. Not just a local person. They're just trying to get a deal. They're just being a bunch of cheap bastards.
Exactly. They added that if it was reasonable to expect the following to increase to 500,000 by the wedding time. So they were expecting 10 times the followers by April of 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this story is going to help them do that. No. Not really.
I think that'll probably sink them, because it's like, well, I'm not going to follow this douchebag. It's like, who do they think they are? They sarcastically added it was helpful to know in advance that 25% of their value, which they spent so many years honing, would be knocked off. Finally, we really appreciate how valued as artists and professionals you have made us feel by informing us that you have only sent this exact same email to 4 other companies, they said, and that a fast response will secure us the wedding rather than the artistic considerations. Melissa wasn't interested in the counteroffer and immediately responded to the company by calling them unprofessional and saying the response was appalling.
Yeah. Well, I want to know, I kind of figured they were probably reaching out to a couple of these photographers because they knew they weren't going to get anywhere because they're actually not important. And that I guess then this was the only photographer who felt they should take it to social media, which is surprising. You'd think there'd be a lot more.
Well, well, maybe, again, maybe this couple or this photography company, they're just like, what an insult. You're 55,000 followers, what big deal. And that's worldwide. So it's not like, somebody here in the States is going to be calling up this photography company to do some shoots for them. It's just like the CMS trying to advertise for like Joe's Garage here locally. I mean, we may have a worldwide following, but Joe's Garage is only good for people who live in the area.
Yeah, I get it. I was trying to get some advertisements for heavy metal television. to get my foot in the door. And really, the only guy I reached out to is Donald Trump to get some campaign commercials on there. I just thought it had to be something worldwide. But other than that, my venture into the marketing and sales did not go well.
I hear you. We will no longer be considering you as contenders to shoot what would have been a very lucrative wedding for you, she said, adding that the other companies had replied with offers of goods and services basically paying us to work with them. It would have been a great opportunity for you to network with other social media influencers and some celebrities who will be making TV appearances later in the year. She said she also added a strange paragraph saying her client's mother had cancer and it was unfair to be so mean when you could have said no politely. So she had to throw in there, oh, yeah, by the way, I have a sick mother. Now you're just making it even worse for me by saying, no, I'm not interested in working with my 55,000 followers as an influencer.
Yeah. They always have to throw that card in there, maybe a recent death, a cancer, and it just it wants to make me feel like an asshole. I'm just thinking of situations where you come across an asshole who's, someone just died, but I was thinking the other day, you know what? It doesn't matter. You're still an asshole.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Melissa signed the email with a threat saying that if the company were to respond and continue with this abuse, she would name and shame them.
Yeah. That shame. It's all about shame.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Instagram is the way to do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
The threat had little effect on Lowe, who responded saying giving the email a little once-over might have been prudent given that you supposedly work in the communications industry. He added that referring to people who will be on TV later this year was another way of saying people who have never been on TV. He added that he was sorry for the client's mother having cancer, but it was a bit random to bring that up when she hadn't mentioned that in the original email. He also apologized for going against the request to never email her again. We're just a couple of hardworking creatives trying to make a living, a very challenging industry, he said. And occasionally that means standing up for our profession and valuing our craft. He signed off with, P.S. Forgive my nosiness. Who is your client? I'm like a super curious by this stage, and so are we. That's where it ends.
That's where it should end. No one got what they wanted.
Yep. Hey, give me something for nothing because I'm important.
Yep.
What is your take on social media there, Kendall? I mean, obviously you use it, you're not big on it, but you do use it. So what is your take on this? I mean, you're in that age group where social media is a huge deal for a lot of people. How do you view social media as far as its use or abuse or its usefulness in life?
Well, I think most of it falls under abuse. I try to use it as a tool for what I do, but I think each outlet or application, whatever you want to call it, has a different use for troubling things. Like Instagram, it's all about what you look like, those influencers selling a bunch of beauty products just by posting pictures that are doctored and everything. Twitter, I think my generation is always just trying to be the most famous, have the most famous and liked tweets. They just try to be very, smart with their tweets, and they don't care about anything else. They just want to be Twitter famous. And then Facebook is just for the general, no one really gives a shit, and also just the shit posting and fighting. Overall, everything falls under the bullshit of social media. I don't know what your social circles are like, but
Do you have a lot of friends who do the whole social media thing?
No, all the information I get is from my siblings and just my younger cousins, because my social circle is more like, maybe it's not a circle. It's more of like I'm trying to think of a shape with the least amount of sides. I guess I'll have to go with the triangle, because it goes 1, 2, 3 back to the first one. Yeah, I just I get a lot of information from just observing, and I don't really have much communication with people my age, as I am in the Classic Metal Show chat room, and that is the extent of who I talk to in the week, besides older drunk people at my place of employment. So from what I see, just crap.
Older drunk people. So what is the clientele that you deal with at the bar? What is the average age, would you say? And what is the main drink of choice, and what is the average age of the people that you deal with? Is this kind of like a blue collar bar? Is it like a neighborhood bar, or what kind of a place is it?
So the typical customer is male, aged 40 to 60. Their job or career is usually a self-employed contractor who work around the town. They're all locals. And the drink of choice is probably Budweiser.
A lot of beer.
Yeah, it's tap beer. I'm actually happy for that, because I'm not into the whole mixing of fruity drinks and everything. So it's very simple. It's pouring beer probably 90% of the time.
Yeah. So obviously, as an attractive female, do you get hit on a lot at the bar, or do people just accept you as, Kendle the bartender? Because you probably see a lot of the same people there all the time, a lot of the regulars. So, at one point or another, they have to decide, all right, this isn't going to ever happen. So they just kind of settle down and just kind of treat you as a friend or a friendly face. But is that something you have to constantly deal with, or how's that work for you?
It's not a constant. It's like a here and there thing. Like, I'll get like a toothless guy asking me out to Outback Steakhouse, telling me that my eyes melt him.
Oh, really? Your eyes melt him?
Yeah. I've gotten a lot of things about my eyes, so I guess that's better than in that situation. It's better than most areas that they could compliment. So yeah, my eyes, and I'd say it doesn't happen too often, because the person I am right now is pretty much the way I handle myself behind the bar. I don't change myself at all, and it works for that kind of environment. I don't think it would work at any other kind of bar. I think people, once they go in there, they're going to be in there again. They know what to expect, and that I'm just there to do my job. And I think the thing they mostly care about is that if they have a drink in front of them, and I take care of that.
Sure.
And if anything's ever said to me, like, I've gotten extreme things, like being called a cunt, and I just go, you know what? Here you go. Here's your drink. The guy tipped me well. I'm okay with that.
And of what? And give me an example of a situation where someone would call you a cunt. Why would they even do that?
Oh, it had nothing to do with my character, but the patron's character, who this is a gentleman who I've heard, because he's around town, he's a contractor, like people describe. Oh, he's worked on my house, he does great work. He's the nicest guy when he's sober, but he comes in the bar and he's never slightly sober at all. He's already smashed. And I've never cut anyone off, and I've never said, I'm not serving you, because everyone walks there and walks home pretty much. So I don't need any conflict, so I'm easy going with that. But he just, It was just a phrase that he likes to use. He said it in a nice way.
Give me an example of a nice way of saying that. Like,
okay,
pour me a Budweiser, you cunt.
Yeah, you light him up, you little cunt. That's pretty much. I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing. Light him up means buy a shot for the whole bar.
Okay.
If I go, hey, fuck you, you called me a cunt, like a woman had done and got him kicked out.
Yeah.
And she actually punched him in the face for using that same language to her. If I do that, now I fucked everyone else out of a shot on him.
Right.
So I ain't doing that.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
you got a thick skin now. You're a young person. What toughened you up to be able to withstand that kind of environment and not, get emotionally reactive to that and just sort of like, that's that guy, that's what he does, or that's his personality, or whatever it is?
I didn't go through any hardships or struggles. I had a pretty easy childhood, quiet childhood, stayed to myself. So I think the overall factor is I just don't care. That's it.
Did that affect you at any time from the first time that you started tending bar? Did the environment bother you at all, or even take you back at all? Or did you just sort of like, was it kind of like a fish takes to water, or how did that work out for you from the jump when you got into bartending?
Just from the start, I started about 7 months ago. It was just pretty much training, and a lot of it was just going through the motions. And at most times, that's what it is. If it's a busy night, it's just going through the motions. So I don't have time to think about anything or to be offended by anyone. Not that I would. But, the time where I kind of have to, if ever, have to step out of my comfort zone is when it's not busy and you just got one motherfucker talking to you for 3 hours straight and you kind of don't know what they're saying. I just get tired of smiling and nodding, because that's pretty much all I do, because I don't think they care. They don't give two shits about what I say. It's not going to add to the conversation. They're just going to go with whatever they want to, because that's like typical intoxicated person in that bar. But other than that, there are some nice people in there too. But yeah, it's basically I go in there and I'm in another place, and then I get out and I'm, I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Well, you're quite the trooper. Now, I know that you do some things outside of bartending. You have activities. I know that you like to, you're part of like a dart league. You throw darts, and you also play in a band as well. So when did you get involved with the darts? I mean, was that something that you picked up recently, or is this something you've done for a while, or how's that work for you?
I'm a competitive person when it comes to barroom sports, and I'm actually in the dart league at the place where I work, so it gives me a chance to be there and just settle down and not have to worry about everything else going on. I started that like 4 years ago and went on and off sessions, and it's just something that a lot of my family does it. Actually, people in the dart league are probably pissed off because there's so many Peters in the dart league, but it's what we do, and we're good at it.
Yeah, are you good? Are you a good dart player?
It takes me towards the end of the session to get pretty good, but I'd say I'm pretty good because I've always been an athletic, coordinated person, so I got it handled.
Cool.
Yeah. Have you ever done a dart league, Neely?
I have not. I've played darts, just for fun. I've never got into a league, but it's just something that you just do as a casual thing. But I know some people take it seriously, and obviously, if you join a league, you're a little more serious than the casual player. And, I mean, again, I've seen people get into these things very competitively, and, Yeah, it could get a little intense. I've watched some dart leagues. I've watched some competitions going on, and yeah, there's some people who really take that stuff seriously.
Yeah, and we got money on the line, and so it's not too much money though. It's about like $7 a week just to throw, and then that is 12 weeks, so whatever that adds up to, you can maybe win it close to $200. But there's this thing in our dart league. It's called the 9 pool. I'm sure it's common. You know, whoever shoots the most 9s in a session, they get an extra pot of money if people wanted to join the pool, and then all the money adds up. Well, our money has been adding up because no one has shot a 9. So just to give the character of this bar, like my uncle's friend who shot 2 in the trip, so he's at 6. And he's about to aim up for the 9, a lot of money on the line, and my brother just bursts out, "Fuck a pussy," and he fucking blew it. And this guy, I'd be pissed off, but he was fine. It's all good-hearted. People will kick the shit out of each other in that bar for calling them by their first name, like as simple as that. This one guy will take off his shirt and try to fight you if you call him by his first name, so that gives an idea. And then they'll buy beer for each other after. So it's all good.
Is that nerve-wracking for you when it looks like a fight is going to break out? I mean, I can't imagine you have a actual bouncer on duty or anything. Does that kind of make you nervous at all?
In a way, I'm not nervous because some people, I think some people, they're all talk, and the ones who want to fight are actually big pussies. And if they started fighting, I think I would have enough in me to escort their asses out the door. And I've never been in a fight in my life. But I'm that confident based on the clientele, some of them anyway.
Sure. Well, let's take a call, Kendall. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right. Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Neely, how you doing? Hail and kill, buddy.
Hey, man.
Love the show. You were talking about social media, and that's actually how I got into the show. I listen to YouTube clips a lot, and I was listening to, believe it or not, Eddie Trunk, and that's how I got pinpointed your way.
Yeah, we kind of bag on Eddie. I know Eddie personally. I've hung out with him on numerous occasions over the year, but we kind of pointed out some of the things that he's a little full of himself. So you found us via the social media, through like YouTube suggestion or something?
Yeah, I would just listen to some rock and roll stuff on YouTube while I drive, and I just heard, I saw your show pop up, and I was like, man, this is funny as hell. It's great. Now I don't listen to really Eddie Trunk that much anymore.
Well, that's what we hear every time people find us. It's just like, yeah, he's boring.
It really is. I mean, and I love listening to the Dokken stuff. I mean, I was never into Dokken music, believe it or not, and I know you bring this up, but I love Don Dokken.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to the 2 biggest Dokken fans right now. Kendall is a huge Dokken fan.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the biggest.
That's awesome.
And
I'm really digging the show.
Well, good. Well, Kendall's getting her feet wet being a co-host tonight, and it's kind of a get to know you segment here right now. So who are you? Who are you, and where are you calling from?
My name's Jim. I'm from Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. Well, very cool. Kendall's just a little north of you, and actually, I met Kendall for the first time in Philadelphia, right, Kendall?
Yeah, it was a magical night.
And she got to meet Dawn.
No shit. That's awesome.
In Philadelphia.
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
Where were you?
Where was I?
She said, yeah, where were you, pal?
What day and what night was it?
It was at a Comic-Con 2 years ago in June.
I went to one Comic-Con. That's it. I've been to one, and Norman Reedus and all those guys were there, but Don was not there, or I would have been there.
Sure, absolutely. All right, well, I'm glad you enjoy the show.
Yeah, I've been listening a lot. I love it. I'm going to call in again. It's my first time calling in. I just wanted to say what's up. Hail and kill, fuck you, pal, and hand job.
All right, there's a listener for you, Kendall.
Nice. Another Dokken fans, all right.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, from this perspective, we got people of all age groups that listen to the show. Obviously, it caught your ear. What are you, 25 now?
24.
24? So,
yeah.
So you were what, like 20 when you heard us for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously as a 20-year-old, you heard us, and then we got people in my age group and, everything in between. And, we get messages all the time. People call in, send emails. They discover different new music for them for the first time through the show, and of course, I promote Dokken a lot because Don's a good friend. And, people have sent a lot of emails over the years like, man, I never really listened to them much, but then I started listening, and it's like, man, they're like one of my favorite bands now. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's the power of commercial radio, because, back when I was younger and commercial radio used to actually play new stuff from rock bands, that's how we found out about things, but when radio became very corporate, especially into the 90s, those days ended. You didn't get to hear anything new anymore from some of the legacy bands. They just didn't do that anymore. So the people who came in to the scene after that, they never got an opportunity to be exposed to any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And just going on that, like your show plays the deep cuts. From, just to give an example, of course we love this example here on the show, Dokken. People don't, regard them as being as heavy metal as they are. And just to go back on that story about us meeting in Philadelphia, you and Don gave me some 10 by 12 signed pictures to give out on my show, and I posted it on my social media, and DJ at the station as well goes, "Oh, cool, man. That's awesome that you got that autograph." So I'm like, "Hey, man, before I give these out on my show, you want one?" He's like, "Yeah, I'd love that." So a couple days later, I go into the Wilkes station. I hand him the signed picture that I have mine right here of Don, and he goes, thanks, man. Dokken's, my favorite hair metal band." And I just cringed, and I was like, I'm going to take that fucking picture back right from you right now. I just don't like that term, hair metal. But yeah, it's like people generally get that idea of bands like that, and just like anti-commercial radio, as what the classic metal show is, gives all those bands a chance, because most of them, except Poison, are heavy metal.
Right. Well, for the time they were, it's just kind of morphed into other things, but at that time, that was what it was. So, but speaking of music and all kinds of things, you're musical as well. I mean, you obviously play a couple instruments. You play drums. You play guitar. You are a performer. You do play with a band. When did you get into musical instruments?
I got into guitar around 17 years old. I just started by playing tablature. Technically, that's still what I do. I'm no musician in my own right. I want to be. I have an extreme creative block when it comes to trying to write my own music, but I want to. I feel like I got something to say, but I don't know what that is yet. But I'm getting there. The only thing I've done in terms of making my own music, the highlight of my career so far is doing that guitar solo in the CMS Legion song. That's my creative highlight. Guitar, I'm doing like solo shows. I got one for August where I'm just playing a craft fair. I'm just gonna sing a mix of tunes, and while I play the guitar. And then other than that, drumming, I never thought I'd be a drummer in a band because I'm not a drummer. My mother bought my father a drum set about 4 or 5 years ago for Christmas, and I just messed around with it, but I just had like more of an innate ability with it, and by no means a great drummer, but I just have like a rhythm, which allowed me to be in the stage of the band I am now. We're not great by any means, but it's a great start for where I'm at as a drummer.
Right. So is your father musically inclined? I mean, did he play drums prior to your mom buying him a drum set, or was that just something that he kind of wanted? It's just like, man, I always wanted a set of drums. How did that work out?
From the stories I've heard, he kind of messed around with them in high school. Maybe like not so much. He was never in a band, but he would have maybe a jam kind of session with his friends back when he was in high school. And then years went by. He picked up the guitar. I remember when I was really young, he'd be playing riffs in his closet. It was actually weird. He was in a closet doing it, but it was a bigger closet. At that point, I had no desire to play guitar. I wish I did, so I could be like the prodigies there are today, those little kids. But I feel like I got a late start, but I can't think like that too much, because I know many musicians I think Dave Meniketti was one who picked up the guitar at 17 and was awesome. So I got to put my time in. And then in terms of my dad playing more so with the drums and how he got those 4 years ago, which is pretty much the only reason I'm drumming now. He probably thought that was a shitty gift. He's like, he's probably thinking when my mom bought those for him on Christmas 4 years ago, I'm a fucking adult with bills to pay. Why you going out and buy me drums? That's probably his mindset. But in a way, that led to me playing.
Well, there you go. That sounds like that's kind of an interesting story. How you
yeah.
So obviously you haven't taken any lessons per se. You sort of are self-taught then, right?
For the drums, I'm self-taught. For the guitar, just to get some credits in at my university, I took guitar classes. My goal was to learn how to read sheet music because I was in jazz band. It didn't work out because I did sheet music. I played cello also throughout my school years, 5th grade to 12th grade. And I know how to read music, but when it comes to guitar, it's just a whole different monster, I think. I don't know why. I just didn't have the motivation. And I think it actually could have been because I really don't care for jazz music. So even if I learned that skill, it would have took too much effort for the result, which was playing jazz. I'd rather just learn tabs of Dokken, Megadeth, what have you. So I took the guitar lessons and pretty much just went in there and showed off some riffs and didn't really learn much when it comes to theory of guitar. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Megadeth and Metal Church and Dokken and things like that. How did you even get into, learning about these bands, or when was the first time that you that caught your ear, and how did you become such a big fan? Because obviously these bands' heyday were before you were even born, but yet you're very knowledgeable about them. You're fans. You're a fan of them. You collect their records. You play their music. All that kind of stuff. So kind of take us back a little bit about how and where you were influenced to start listening to this, classic metal as it were.
It was just on when I was younger, primarily in the car. The bands that come to mind, the earliest bands I got into just from hearing them, my dad play them, is probably Accept, Europe, Night Ranger, Def Leppard, Iron Maiden. And I don't know exactly what it was. I just took a liking to them. I never really got into anything else. My favorite gifts as a kid for Christmas were when I got a Def Leppard t-shirt. Like, that's my biggest memory of, like, a Christmas gift when I was, like, 12, 11. And I was just a casual fan. I just wasn't into music as much as I am now. Now it's pretty much the biggest, part of me in terms of my influence and what I do. It wasn't until high school where I just, the main occurrence that happened was just going on YouTube and watching the Hearing Aid video and thinking that's the coolest thing I ever saw. It's like, it's like some of these bands, I got to get more into. One of the primary ones being Dawkins, and then just all blossomed from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always just a feeling. It's how I feel when I put on the record. So I love music, and I think this type of music has the most talent, the most soul, the most uniqueness. So it's just what it is.
Yeah. Well, since you said that you kind of discovered this, in your teenage years when you were in high school, obviously, what were your friends listening to, and were they down with what you were listening to, or were they aware of it, or did they go, what is that, or how was that environment for you?
I basically had two friends, and one of them I didn't like. It was like the friend that's a Cartman of South Park. You don't know why you hang out with them, but they're somehow still there. If it were up to me, I'd actually have no friends in high school. And I don't even really talk to either of them now, so I didn't really have much to talk to. And I don't look at it as a bad thing. It's just what it is and the kind of person I am. I just didn't need to hang out with friends. In fact, when I was younger and my mom would make me a play date, I'd be pissed off. It would come out like when I was in high school. Like, I'd be writing lyrics in the back of my planner all the time. Like, I still have that planner, just writing lyrics, just thinking about music, just doodling up some Vic Rattlehead and Eddie. And they probably just, if I had to guess, I didn't talk to my friends about metal because they weren't going to offer any input. But throughout college, I doodled shit too, like Skulls and shit and Eddie Vic. They just probably thought I was weird and messed up. They probably still think that, actually. But it's just a vibe.
Sure.
I can't help it.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Obviously I could see your video, and, you got quite a collection of, rock and roll stuff behind you. I see your Mr. Scary guitar from George Lynch and all your bumper stickers and all kinds of rock and roll paraphernalia that you collect. And since you mentioned records there, I know that you're into the whole vinyl thing. To where you do play vinyl on your show. I mean, you do a little segment on your show where you'll play a couple of tracks from a vinyl selection. So when did you start getting into the vinyl?
Let's see. Probably when I just went to a flea market one time, and I don't even think I had a vinyl. I don't think I had a vinyl player at the time, but I just saw like the first 4 Def Leppard vinyl. And the guy gave me a good deal on it, and I just thought, if anything, I just want to have it just because it's cool memorabilia. So I got it. And then from there, I went out and found on Craigslist some like old 60s vintage record player. It had like it was like a record player built into a cabinet. That was torn apart by my dad for some reason. He was trying to fix it. It's like torn in pieces now. Now I have one I just picked up on Amazon. So now I actually have a good way to play it, hooked up to my show. And then just the vinyl. The vinyl comes from mostly flea markets and record fairs. I'll go into a record fair, and I probably shouldn't, but I spend over $100. And then I get a lot from a line of work that I did. Well, I still do on and off. It's clean outs on foreclosed houses with my uncle who works for a housing company. And just today, he was out and he brought home a bunch of these vinyl home, and I just went through them. I have them like behind me here. Bunch of oldies, but I play oldies before my show, so it works out. The metal ones are the ones that I buy, but I have a lot of obscure shit. Like I got a lot of vinyl. I probably haven't even played half of it because it comes in stockpiles when I get it from like house cleanouts. And it's a mix of stuff, but one of these days I keep all my shit. I never get rid of anything, so they're going to be played. It's just going to take some time.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Kendall, I'll tell you what, you got a very fascinating story here. I gotta admit, I don't know a lot of people in your age group, but I do know some people, and they certainly don't have the eclectic interest in music and classic metal, as it were, and the fact that you have such an interest in such things and collect it and play it and live it and actually go to the shows and have a lot of photos and things where you've got to meet some of your favorite artists and bands and things like that. That's pretty cool.
It's definitely pretty cool, and as long as we're in the age where I could identify as anything or person or creature I want to be, I'll just go with my age. I do not identify as a 24-year-old, but I'm glad to be to keep whatever young spirit in the metal brigade.
Exactly. All right, Kendall, I say we take a break here. We've burned through the first hour of your appearance here on the show, and we'll play a few tunes here and come back. You got a suggestion? Is there something you'd like to hear?
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw in just some of my favorite songs. I'm going to go with Impellitteri, because I like this record. It's not their latest. It's their one before that. I think it's Venom.
Uh-huh.
And there's a video out for this one. Impellitteri, We Own the Night. I don't think it was given its due credit. I just love it. And I more recently got into Impellitteri, and he's got the chops of Yngwie, but as far as I know, he's not a dick. So, Impellitteri.
Well, I've actually had him on the show, and, that's interesting because, obviously he's a very accomplished guitarist. How did you discover him? I
just think it was recommended to me on YouTube. Probably when I was on, maybe looking at other videos. Maybe it was Frontiers Records. I know that's who they're working with now. I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, but just recommended tab on YouTube.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, we're going to take a break. We're going to play a couple of tunes here. Kendall and I will be back. So by way of request from Kendall, this is Impellitteri from the Venom release, and this is We Own the Night exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.
Hi, this is Chris Impellitteri of the band Impellitteri, and you are listening to the Classic Metal Show.